Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis. I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined this morning by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric. Oh, it's good to be back, Eric. It's good to be back.
Tommy, it is good to have you back. You see, I play hooky every time you're not here. I said it's vacation day. I mean, right? Just like I'm going down a roller coaster. No, we miss you all, but Tommy, glad to have you back, man. How things going?
Things going well. On a personal front, Eric, thank you for your patience and the community this morning. I'm battling a little bit of a sickness, and so I'll be in question mode, obviously in conversation mode. But I'll tell you this, and I've said it before, that oftentimes for myself, I don't always appreciate my health until I'm sick, right? It could be a cold, absolutely, it can be a virus, it could be whatever.
Right.
But this one put me down a little bit. I had been doing some traveling, coming back, and business continues.
Right.
And so it put a stop to me actually engaging in some business. But thank goodness for my staff,
right,
as well. They were able to pick up the pieces. And so it's an ecosystem of success and engagement for me, Eric. It's an ecosystem. It's not one thing. It's not one event or one person. A lot of things have to happen well every day for me to be present. So I'm glad to be present on this Saturday,
right,
for Diversity Conversations.
And we are glad to have you here too. Tommy, let me ask you this. Clients don't really care to hear about other clients or sickness or anything, do they?
They don't. Not at all.
Yeah, they don't want to hear about you sick, you under the weather, or you got other projects that you're behind on.
Yeah, they don't care about that. Other projects, it's about me, I. And that's the way we have to treat the clients.
And we are grateful to do that.
Absolutely.
Did you have to work it all this week, or were you kind of intermittent in and out?
Yeah, so I did. On Thursday, I had two significant projects that I had to be a part of. One was a report out that was very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And so the client, over the last 2 years working with them, they know me, I know them. It's we have some personal relationships there, personal conversations.
That's good.
So I did tee them up.
Yeah,
I was at 85%. They said no problem, just get through the data.
Right.
And that was good. The other was a training that I just turned it over to the group, and have them just talk through and work through. And I'm going to bring up we'll talk about a situation or conversation I had during the training that was very new for me.
Okay.
Over the last 15 years of doing the same exercise.
Right.
And we'll bring that up.
Okay, good. Make sure you don't let that get away from you. This week for me was an interesting week. They all are. I love life. Good morning, Kim Wilson. Glad to have you join us right from the top of the hour. We're glad to have you with us. This week, I had a chance to do some intercultural competence assessments and do some of those report outs and debriefs. And so I was doing that with some leaders at a local agency, and one of the leaders was nervous about getting their results, and literally, cried after receiving the results, and which weren't bad at all. It's the IDI has sort of 5 global mindsets moving, as you know, moving from denial, polarization, through minimization to acceptance and adaptation. She was at minimization. That's not a bad place to start at all. But really question whether she was, appropriate to be the leader, and I just said that's what makes you qualified.
Indeed.
Is that you care so deeply. And, so I was I was just grateful for people who care, Tommy.
Yeah.
I'm real grateful for that, man. And then our job is to demonstrate and display empathy toward people because if you're on the road, it's a journey.
Yeah.
The other thing I did this week is I had a chance to go to D.C.
Mhm.
I'll tell you what, I just want to thank God right now for Edgar Smith, because Edgar always invites me to things that I feel like I'm too busy to do.
Mm.
And we are busy, but he just catches me and says, I mean, he just keeps like flashing cards like, Eric, you don't want to miss this one. And so it was even with my client, Americans for the Arts. Edgar is the new board chair for Americans for the Arts,
Yes.
the largest philanthropic organization, arts advocacy organization in this country. And so he told me, he said, Eric, you've got to come to DC, man, for this event, the 35th Nancy Hanks lecture series. And they were going to be honoring Congressman Jim Clyburn for his commitment and investment in the arts. And also the guest speaker was Jeffrey Wright, who just got the Oscar-nominated Jeffrey Wright, for the best leading male actor, and so I got a chance to meet him, and just it was a wonderful event.
Wow.
I mean, there was I got a good friend that lives in D.C., Richard Monte. I met him when I was coming out of graduate school 40 years ago. He was in Atlanta. I had some of my intern bosses tell me, if you go to Atlanta, make sure you look up Richard Monte. And I did. And Richard just said, Eric, come to Atlanta. I got you.
Yeah.
And then he went on to become the city manager of Newark. And so we've been just like family for all these years. So I asked him to go with me, and he met some of my friends. I had a chance to meet the CEO of AFTA, who I've been working with for 3 years virtually.
Wow.
And that was my first opportunity to meet him face to face. And we just sat down, Brigadier General Nolan Bivens, a powerful man. He's like a father figure, man. He's just got a lot of wisdom and a lot of jokes, And then I have placed several executives with Americans for the Arts, so I got a chance to meet those individuals. So it was really like a homecoming in many ways.
Wow.
But the first thing that happened to me when I got to D.C., I'm leaving the airport. I got my rental car. They have all these little quick twists and turns.
Yeah.
So I'm twisting and turning. My ADHD is running me crazy, and I'm trying to look at my phone, trying not to miss turns. And so I know I must cut somebody off. So I hear this big old horn behind me, and I don't really like it.
Yeah.
If you just gonna lay on the horn on me.
Come on.
So when you lay on the horn, then I lay on the brakes and I slow down. And so then he got alongside me and jumped in front of me and just slammed on the brakes. I said, "Oh, we're gonna do it. We're doing it like that." So I'm not in any way emotionally engaged.
Right.
So yeah, I'm actually curious. Like, what is going on there? Who is this idiot? So he pulls down his window, and I pull down mine, and he calls me a name I've never been called in my life. He said to me, "You effing Christian." He called me effing Christian. He don't know me at all. I yelled back at him, "I'm Muslim." He just looked at me in disgust and drove on. I'm sensitive. It's gonna tell me, "You effing Christian." I'm a Muslim. But I understood. He's upset.
Yeah.
So much going on in the Middle East. He just tired of everybody here. He mad at everybody. And so he just called me a name, man, out the blue. And so that started off my visit to DC.
Yeah.
And but man, we just gotta laugh in order not to cry.
Yeah.
The other thing that I had happen, man, just a couple of days ago, I had a rabbi call me up and wanting to talk about things related to the Israeli-Hamas war, and he's seen sort of the increase in anti-Semitism that a lot of young people are facing, and they're looking for allies. And I told him, I said, right now things are so volatile that it's hard to get anybody to sort of align with you in any kind of public way because it's viewed as taking sides. I said, my view, I said, I posted one time on social media and I said that we have to support the innocent on both sides. I said, I do understand that it was horrific what happened on October 7th. I said that was evil, it was wrong, it was nasty, killed 1,200 women, children, and then took 250 hostages. I said there's no excuse for that, there's no justification for that. I said that Israel's justified to go after Hamas. I said, but on the other side, people are looking at the 30,000 Palestinians that have died now, and over half of them innocent women and children. And I said, so it creates complexity. I said, but here's what I would say to you, that there is no political environment that would ever cause me not to support your children and Jewish children. They should not be experiencing bitterness, harassment, anger, nastiness. None of that is acceptable or justified in any environment. But I think that, what happens is that when things start getting a little more politicized, then the emotions are running high and you have to almost stand down for a minute. I said, I have Jewish friends and Palestinian friends. I don't really try to bridge the gap right now. Mm-hmm. I said, I think that they have the freedom to create whatever bridges they're interested in. And as they do that, we're seeing some of the young people do that. I said, then that's helpful.
I'm curious, Eric, with allyship, what does that mean? And how does one truly be an ally?
Boy, that's a good question, Tommy. And I'd love to have our community weigh in on it as well. Here's my thought. What I've defaulted to right now, I'm just going to pull back the curtain just as though we were at the Wizard of Oz and me and Tommy running things. I'm going to pull open the curtain and let you see how I make some of the secret sauce. For me right now, I am bailing on sort of the challenging of either side. Mm-hmm. I'm only choosing to display empathy to whoever's in front of me. Mm-hmm. So if it's my Palestinian neighbors, I'm just, hey, how are you feeling? How's the family doing? Yeah, you're right. I even join in with some of the anger. I get it, and I show them that I support them. When I'm speaking to my Jewish friends, I do the same thing. Mm-hmm. I say, hey, I love you, man. I'm pulling for you. How you doing? How's the family? And I display empathy to whoever's in front of me. And just like we said 2 weeks ago, that when do you tell your kids that Santa Claus isn't real is when they're ready to hear that. So any of my Jewish or Palestinian or Islamic Muslim friends that are interested in having a more complex conversation like the rabbi, then I'm willing to go there. But if they don't initiate that, I'm not trying to initiate that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Eric. And we've heard of allies, we've heard of allyship. We've been asked to be an ally of a particular, point of view or perspective or, cultural nuance. We may have asked others to be an ally of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that comes to my mind is I believe that there is work to be done in the form of allyship.
Right.
And so I have caution at times, and I love what you just said and how you address what's in front of you with empathy. That's the humanitarian approach. Right. I have concerns where either the allyship is performative.
Yep.
The allyship is and sometimes it's unnatural, right? And it's forced.
Yeah.
Right. And so when the allyship is unforced, it is natural. The ally themselves do a lot of work. Sometimes the ally is the greatest champion for said cause.
Absolutely.
Right. And they get
right. I like that, right? Tommy. That's exactly right.
It's like in other words, like a parent and a child. Mm-hmm. So the child is going through something. The parent says, I'm an ally, right? And the parent sees the child getting to a point that they cannot take their fight any further, their argument any further. Mm-hmm. And so the parent, who has maybe a network, influence, maybe even some power, as an ally, then steps in and says, right? I'm going to take it to the next level, to bring attention, to move whatever my child is trying to get to, move them forward.
Right.
That's an ally, I think, and there's a number of different ways to do this. But I just want to close my comments there with sometimes I don't know if I can be a true ally because I may not know all the information or I may not have the power and influence, or do I need to just empathize?
Right. And so I said that I sort of empathic listening, support who's in front of me. But the other thing I would say to you is that if you come from my Palestinian neighbors, then you coming for me. So I'm gonna be right there with them.
Yeah.
If you come from my Jewish brothers, then you coming for me. So I'm not going to just sit back and allow you to, just come for people that I care deeply about. But in terms of getting on the front line of the battle that I am not an in-group part of, my job is to sit on the sidelines for a minute.
Indeed.
And let those who are natural parties of the discussion, even of the conflict, try to work their way through that.
Yeah.
Second, Eric, I feel showing empathy and compassion from a neutral place integrates more, unifies more. Any other thoughts around that, Tom?
No, I think that's spot on. Empathy and compassion.
Right. So we've got a number of questions. The last time we were together, Tommy and I explored some relational kinds of questions. Roger, we're glad to have you with us again. Much love to you as well. And we want to kind of pick up on that theme again. We've identified some what we believe are interesting questions, but we're also going to welcome you to weigh in. The last time shocked us. I mean, we weren't even ready for all the questions. I mean, after the show ended, we scrolled up and said, oh my goodness, they had probably 15 more points that we didn't get to. So if you were with us last week and we didn't get to your points, certainly bring that back. We are grateful to have those. The first one I want to just throw at is, Tommy, what does love mean to you as it relates to your siblings, as it relates to being a husband, being a father? What does love mean to you?
Yeah, love to me, Eric, it's a little bit of a quandary. Love is easy, right? For me, siblings, family members. I would say, particularly with my sibling and sister Anita, it's very easy.
Right.
Very easy.
Right.
Love is, for me, protective. Love, I mean, so I say love, but part of that is kind of controlled anger. Eric,
rage.
It's rage.
Right.
It's rage. And so I don't know if that's an oxymoron. I'm thinking about it right now.
That's deep, bro.
When
my temperature went up there just as you talked about it.
So love would have me kind of latch on to something that's trying to hurt what I love. Right? Love has me thinking about it when I'm thinking about it, and then remind me about it when I'm not thinking about it. Right?
That's powerful, Tommy. That I would submit. Well, no, I'm going to take it back before I even get it out of my mouth. I was going to say that that's a gender difference. I don't think it is. Women.
Indeed.
You mess with a woman's child, Judy will light you up. I've never seen anything make her go off like somebody messing with her baby. She would lose it. But I know that for me and Tommy, this notion of heated love drives us to a protection mode. And sometimes I think that we believe, I know unconsciously probably, that that's the bulk of my job, is to protect this home. Nobody coming in here and messing with nobody. And I think that women sometimes are not simply looking for that. They're glad to have that.
Right.
But they're looking for some other things, some blades that we haven't sharpened sometimes as well.
Right.
When I think about love, I would say that love is an interesting word. I use it sometimes when I'm speaking to people, even in the workplace. Somebody that I kind of care about, I say, hey, I love you.
Mhm.
And I know it's kind of unsettling almost. It's
Right.
disarming.
Right.
And when I say that at the level that I'm talking about, I mean it.
Mhm.
That I love you.
Mhm.
And I want to just say something to you that lifts your spirit. But then I think there's sometimes that I say love because I'm supposed to love,
Right.
but I probably don't really mean that.
Mhm.
But I don't want the battle of saying that maybe I don't love you. That's not with my wife, my kids. But that's outside of that group. You know, there are people that we are supposed to love that I would not let the record show that I may not love you. Uh, or maybe it's a deep-seated thing. I don't know, but it's undiscussed and it's just resides there. And what I typically do is I don't spend much time thinking about
Mhm. Right.
it. So I don't fully vet it out.
So the scripture, love thy neighbor. As you were sharing, Eric, I was thinking of, some news feeds I get, and from a political perspective, and all these other communities that may be homogenized or whatever the case may be. And in some of these communities, they are highly Christian. And we're Christian as well. And I believe that they read the same Bible as we do, and they're reading scripture that says, love thy neighbor. And when I hear them speak about whatever difference, right? It could be a political difference, it could be a racial difference, it could be gender orientation difference and everything. I don't hear love.
Right.
So I'm like, what is love to you? And so I don't think too hard about what is love to you, but I do consider, if I'm loving and I'm expressing love to you, be it verbally just saying I love you, or through my actions, through my energy, are you receiving love in the same energy, in the same context,
Right.
as I am?
Right.
Short answer, I think, is no.
Right.
Right. The short answer is no. Absolutely. Even in my own home, we have love languages and all that good stuff. At times, my expression of love, like this past week, is different than what my family may think.
Right.
This past week, I was ill.
Right.
And in my mind, I said, every day, because I was sleeping hours and hours a day, I have to get well to get out here to provide for my family. Because I love my family, and I'm looking at the long run. If I'm sick longer than a week or a month, things change in the house. Right. So I was motivated. Come on, God, help me get well. God said, rest. Okay, I'll rest because I got to get up here and make sure the family's okay. That was my expression of love. Other folks like, you still sleep? Right. I was like, you don't know what I'm trying to do. So the expression of love can be differently interpreted.
Well, that's powerful. And I would say that let's just slow the video down and say that I don't think that people have heard enough about the genuine love of Black fathers, Black husbands, because it's something that's so compelling. We just don't hear about it, Tommy. We hear about deadbeat Black dads
all the time.
We hear about angry and abusive Black husbands, but we don't hear about those who are in the bed ill, thinking I must survive because I have a job to do that I'm proud to do. And that is powerful, man. And I feel that to my deepest core. It is why I breathe.
Yeah.
You know, I love Judy like nothing in the world. There's nothing I wouldn't do for her. You know, so, and then my children, I mean, it's irrational. I remember when I first had children, I stopped riding roller coasters, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I just went crazy. because I felt as though I had a new assignment. And that was to let nothing threaten me, because I am going to be here to protect these. And so love is an interesting thing. It's a powerful thing. I know that my love is expressed easier in the world to people who I see as kind or in need. Or even if they're angry and I understand more about where the anger is coming from, then my love can shine through. Sometimes if people are just jacking me up, then my love can get frustrated. And you may not see that face.
Yep. Eric, this might be a good segue to introduce the situation I was in, that conversation. Right. And bear with me for a second. We'll get to it. Want to get your thoughts, and definitely want the community to chime in. So there's a YouTube video that many of us are familiar with. I've been using it for years. You can look it up online. It's called "Where Are You From?" Where Are You From? It's basically a skit where you have an Asian woman. She's jogging, and then this white gentleman is jogging in the opposite direction or toward her. And they engage, and he asks the woman, where are you from? And then there's some banter back and forth. He assumes that she's from an Asian country, where she is telling him that she's from California. And they go back and forth. And then once she says, her background's from Korea, he goes into some kind of, parody, if you will. And then she asks him, where are you from? And he says, I'm from here.
Right.
I'm, American. And she said, no, where are you from? Like the people. And he says, no, I'm just regular American.
Right. Like that's the whole thing.
Yeah. So you're Native American? Yeah. No. Okay. No, my people are from England, right? That's what he says. And then she goes into a big parody, right, of all these English type of stereotypes.
Right.
And so then after all that, they go about their separate ways, right? So I shared the video. It's a funny video, but it has a number of different points. And I asked groups, so what did you think about the video? Most people say, he was just trying to make a point, or, she was too sensitive, or he was too sensitive, all that good stuff. This time, Eric, there were a number of women in the group that had some comments that I did not anticipate. I had never heard before when showing the video and having people react to it. The comments that they were making was that they felt uncomfortable about the man even asking, where are you from? They said that woman jogging, right, should have the freedom of not being bombarded by another person asking questions like, where are you from? How are you doing?
Right.
What is your name? And I was taken aback, like, what?
Right.
What? And so the question that I asked, I just jumped from 0 to 60, right? And not as far as anger.
Right.
And I asked, okay, this is very interesting to me. My question to you is, if a man is attracted to you, how should the man approach you? And so this is what I'm asking you or the audience about attraction, because we're talking about love.
Right.
And I said, well, I find that woman attractive, and I want to speak to her. And so in speaking to her, I want to just say something. And what the women were saying is that in that moment, be it that woman was by herself jogging, she was by herself in the parking lot, she was by herself in the grocery store, that I should not speak to her.
Oh,
And I was like, how else am I going to
right.
get to know her?
Right. So I got the answer for this one.
Yeah.
I know I got the answer for this one, y'all. The answer is it depends on if the woman likes you. That's the answer.
That's the answer.
All rules, all bets off if she likes you. If she doesn't, then all those offenses apply. And so I think that's really where we are, that the rules change for people based upon whether they are attracted to you. So it's a trial and error kind of thing. I think that you're going to make mistakes. If you make mistakes, you take your foot out of your mouth, you spit out the shoe leather, you say, I'm sorry, and you keep heading in the other direction.
Yeah.
I've even heard some, and now let's bring that to the workplace. I think one of the worst mistakes that men can make in the workplace, be attracted to a co-worker and continue to pursue her after she has expressed that she's not interested. I think it's a risky bet in general to approach a coworker for a romantic interest. I think that you have to just come to your senses. This is a workplace, which means we're all stuck in here. So really don't believe that this is the place where you start shooting your shots. So first of all, in the workplace, avoid, unless somebody's giving you an overwhelming green light, which some idiots see everything as overwhelmingly green, and it ain't. I would say, no. Are there people that have said no, and then they fell in love with each other and went on happily into the sunset? Yeah, but that's not a good strategy either. I really think that, especially in the times that we live in, you have to allow the significant other to make the decision around their interest or lack thereof. And I think that it is with some degree of risk that people approach people that they don't know and start asking questions.
I agree. I thought that was great, Eric. Because one of the things I said to the group was, for me, if I'm interested, I'm going to say something.
Right.
There is a risk. So that something that I'm saying may be hello. If I do not get a response, I keep moving.
Right.
Right. There's no interest. Right. If I get a hi, then I'm engaging. So simply getting a response to my interest, my affection, doesn't mean it's all green. It could just be a cordial hi. Right. And then if I get some other cues and I'm reading the cues correctly. Again, all of this is based on when I was dating.
Right. Long time ago.
But let's go to as recent as last night. My wife and I, we have a heated discussion. She got mad at me, and I knew when to acquiesce.
Right.
I had said,
smart man,
said some things. I had some questions. I was like, I put my foot in my mouth on this one. Right. And she started biting my head off. And I was just driving. I was just taking it. Right. And she told me, don't talk to her. And you know what I did? I stopped talking.
Oh, good. Yeah. Compliance.
I stopped talking.
Good move, Tommy.
I stopped talking. And so even in the vein of love, and we were just moments before having free-flowing, loving dialogue.
Yep.
And then there was a comment that was made that upset and angered the other.
Right.
So the upset and angered individual says, don't talk to me. Right. I didn't even take it personal.
Right. Just jettison.
Yeah.
I
didn't take it personal.
Good move.
And I say that the love that I have for my wife and the experience that I have allowed me to make that real-time appropriate decision. I didn't fight.
Right.
Didn't argue.
Right.
I didn't make a joke of it.
Right.
I was just, it didn't become toxic.
Right.
Eric, even last night, I'm like, Oh, I love who I am. Oh, I do. I love this woman, right?
Right.
I got up to come to the show. We hadn't talked in, since
Right.
2 or 3 hours since
Right.
last night. And then this
Right.
morning we were, passing ships. She gave me a call and she said, are we going to do something later? And I said, yeah.
Man, yeah. Now, I'll muddy that water up just a little bit. I'm not sure if us going silent is actually the number one choice that they're interested in. I think that sometimes my experience has been what Judy's interested in is me apologizing, retreating, sort of divesting myself from my point of view and acquiescing to her perspective, which is the right perspective. And I'm not ever. I'm not. I'm gonna get in trouble right now. But she's probably not watching, so I'm in good shape, Tommy. I'm possibly, but God sometimes I have a tune right when I'm saying something stupid. Now, what I will say to you is that my mind is busy. If we're in a disagreement, my mind is busy telling me foolish things.
Yeah.
You're right. You don't have to cave. How many times have I gone 2 or 3 rounds longer than I should have? And then finally, when I wake up, because see, the thing is, I come from a debate-oriented family. That's all we did. We debated and we came in with sarcasm, anything to win.
Yeah.
Now what I know is that, okay, I've seen where this ends, and it's not good. She's going to go higher and further than I will go. I'm not going to be able to bring her back nicely.
Yeah.
And so I have to exit that because I don't want her to have to go to some place that's really going to emotionally unsettle her. So I go to the silent role as well. Sometimes if I'm strong enough, I go right to apologizing. I start by empathic listening. That's one of the tools that we learned at the beginning of our marriage that I still use now. Judy, let me see if I'm understanding what you're saying. And I'll say what she's saying. And if I can do that with no need to just get through that so I can get to my point, that's better. But I find that it's wisdom to lose battles so that you can win the war. And but there's this whole equity thing that's happening in our mind. Like if she thinks that she's right all the time, and I just let that keep, this could be a horrible pattern.
Yeah.
And so that's what your mind is telling you. No, this could be a bad pattern. Yeah. Defend yourself for all humanity. No, shut up.
Yeah.
If that's the best we can do, that's a good choice. It's certainly a better choice than staying in this thing that's draining our energy.
Eric, so I want to speak to the community. Thank you all for joining us every Saturday
Kendall,
morning.
glad to have you, man.
And I'm thinking, excuse me, hopefully we'll be able to have Judy and Penny on the show next week because we've been ramping up, amping up, and now we want to hear that do genders think differently? Right? Do genders think differently? Men and women. There are books out there that may indicate that.
Right. Men from Mars, women from Venus.
All that good stuff. And Eric and I come together on the week and weekends, etc. We talk about our better halves all the time, and they're independent people. And I'm looking forward to having them on the show to speak their truth. And then I would also like to invite our women community members to chime in as well.
Right.
Because when Eric and I, when we come together, we're talking about things. It's from our perspective. It's from our experiences. It's from our learning as well, right? But we don't always get that other side or other sides. Right. And so this may be an opportunity to hear from different perspectives.
So let me ask you this, Tommy, and I ask the community weigh in on it as well. We hear a lot about Black men, Latin men being misogynist, being sexist. What is your view about that in general, Tommy? Outside of yourself, how do you see that? And do we ever, as men, talk about that at all together?
So I overall, I do think that Black men, Hispanic, Latino men are sexist. In the basic definition, that men believe they're better, right?
Mm,
I don't always think it's true,
right.
but I do think it's an overwhelming belief.
Yep.
Um, and one or more, a number of reasons. One reason, Eric, is that the social construct that has been developed by men, and then Black men and Hispanic men have been subjugated to that. Really, they've been under this hierarchy, and they work up through that social structure.
Right.
We began to benefit from certain privileges of being a man.
Right.
In a quote unquote man's world.
Right.
And so fundamentally, yeah, men are sexist.
Yep.
There are just some things that men think about that's narrowly focused on the man or male experience.
Yep.
And then I think the other worst side is that the blind spots that men have,
right,
just simply don't consider,
right,
at times,
right,
and that woman has to continue to educate and teach us and remind us.
Right. And I would say, Tommy, I agree with you. I would say that the way we are raised is oftentimes objectifying women. That's the greatest conversation that we ever have about women, when we can start talking and we can see that gender is different than us. It's about their physical features. It's objectifying women. So if that's the conversation that you had most of your life, then you don't just jump from that to this hugely respectful, person that's equitable in all ways. I am grateful, but I remember when I first, Judy and I were first getting married. I remember that everything was going well, and then all of a sudden she told me a couple of weeks before the wedding that she didn't know she wanted to take my last name. Mm-hmm. I had never even contemplated the notion that she wouldn't take my last name. But that shows you this whole structure that our belief systems are built on, that assume that I'm not changing my name, but you almost become a part of me through taking my name, and somehow that's some offense. And I remember I struggled with that, and God Almighty, God helped me with that. And then I came back to her, Tommy, and I said, Judy, because I got the revelation. What would it be like? You've been Eric Ellis all your life. What if you on one day had to go from Eric Ellis to Eric Evans? I said, oh no, I wouldn't want to do that. I put a lot of credibility. I've made a lot of investment in my name.
Yes.
Once I understood that, man, I said to Judy, Judy, look, it's your call. Whatever, I get it now. Whatever you want to do. And then she said, I'll take you. Yeah. What? Why did we go through all this? I didn't even know we was going to get married over this argument. But she wanted to see some humility there and some understanding of what she's going through. But I would say to you, Tommy, that the biggest conversations that I have with Black men, oftentimes they're jealous of their wives. If the wives are doing better than them, if their wives are making more money than them, Black, Hispanic men will really, the woman has to hide that. They got to dumb that down so that the man doesn't feel somehow that he's no longer the man of that. So it's almost like they have to sort of prop us up or we're going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be an active participant in a gender that is so weak.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful to celebrate strong women, brilliant women. I think that women, just by the numbers, are smarter than men in general.
In general. I would say, Eric, that men and women, but men are fragile to a point. Here's where I'm coming from.
Right.
So, from my experience, even growing up, folks around the community, based on conversations that men have in men groups, we can be very surface and deep at the same time, but there is an extreme imposter syndrome.
Right.
In other words, there's a social construct of when you have a family and your home is on fire to, protect the women and the children.
Right.
And so that is this construct.
Right.
The fragility, in reality, the men, they want to get out. For real.
Right. Right.
They want to get away.
Right.
Right. All man for himself.
Right. Everything for himself. Right. Right.
And we run. We're the kids. Where's the wife? Damn it, they're still in the house.
I gotta go get them.
Gotta go get them.
Right.
And so when we're going to work, when we're in the community, when we're in society, sometimes we have a mask and a hat on of machismo, right? Of this image of a man. And we ourselves don't always believe that we are living up to that standard that was set for us, not by us. And so those men who are in relationships that they are intimidated by the woman, they're living to someone else's standard.
Right.
For you and I, and many folks that we do know, that I'll just speak for myself, that I have learned there's so many things I cannot control.
Right.
That and I don't even know how many people really care about my unique situation. Right?
Right.
I mean, so I can stand up, hey, I'm a man, and this is my woman, and whatever. And folks be like, oh, okay.
Right.
You want a cookie?
Right.
And that's the truth about it.
Right.
And so I stay humble and just kind of, work with myself, talk with other folks that have similar experiences. Like, hey, should I have been quiet?
Right.
Yeah, Tommy, good decision.
Right.
Quiet.
Right.
Or might want to, defend your case, right? Because if you just acquiesce a lot,
right,
or all the time,
you're gonna be a man she don't want.
Indeed, right? Delicate balance.
Right, and I'd say that this is something that is not talked about much. We just sort of operate with. It's funny to hear men when men are talking to each other about, man, my woman better have that food at dinner on the table tonight, saying all that with the fellas. And sure enough, no, they can't say that at home at all. I know that when I was looking for a wife, I had a more traditional lens, and and I learned from I was working under Dr. Jeanette Taylor at UC, had almost an all-female staff, and they were playing with me like a cat plays with a ball of yarn. So they'd be asking me questions like, "What kind of woman are you looking for, Eric?" And I would say it, and then one day I came in, I had a big sign over my door that said, "Eric Ellis is a male chauvinist pig," on the old school print paper. I was like, "What?" I created that paper, man, balled it up, took it to the deans. I was like, "What is this?" She said, "Oh, probably one of the women likes you." But I learned that there were things that I was saying as people were asking me that were old school and sexist. I would say that in our relationship, Judy and I, there are gender role expectations that we haven't operated out of. Because we're in the same generation. She expects me to pay for the meal. She expects me to pay these bills. She expects me to open doors, open car doors, things like that. And I'm good with that. But she also expects to be very much an equal partner, that there's no decision in the house that's going to be made without her. But she will at times say, Eric is the head of the household. I just say he's never seen a final decision that I'm called upon to make. I've never seen the head of the household be activated. But I still got it. Like a nuclear button. Get your finger away from that button. You can't even understand. So I got the nuclear button, but I can't touch it.
Two keys.
Yeah. I got mine turned all the way. Ain't nothing happening. So yeah, I was down there lost. So let me ask you another question, Tommy. What does it mean? Oh, let's look at the question here that we've been posed. I believe that we cannot generalize. Yes, the stereotype is that, but generalizations are changed. So there's a term stereotyping that is when we will take something, a negative trait around somebody within a cultural group like male or female or black or Mexican. We'll take something that may be true about some and we'll apply it to all. That's stereotyping and wrong. But generalizations, cultural generalizations, are patterns that are generally true about a gender. It doesn't apply to everybody, but it's generally true about that gender. And they would say this is true about us. Yeah. And so I think there are some things like generalizations. So if you go to Mexico, there are some things that if you can learn about Mexican culture, it will help you to navigate the space much better. Not every person in Mexico is going to operate the same way, but there are some cultural generalizations that are helpful. Yeah. Let's look at this next one that Lydia put up as well. But as a Mexican, I'd like to share that recently, for the first time in my life, I feel proud to be a woman. And I know it's because I always sensed that in here, we were not as powerful as men.
Yeah, Eric. So there's, and thank you for acknowledging your not only current existence of the power that you have as a woman, but also acknowledging the long history of, in some cases, it may be self-doubt. It may be, again, that social construct that I keep speaking about, and that informs our own, in some cases, our own identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so let me offer this up. The movie that my wife and I went to yesterday is a lower budget movie. The name of it is the Magical Society of Negroes.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It is a very interesting movie. Right. It's something to that effect. The Magical Society of Negroes, or Magical Negroes.
Yeah.
And so if you have the opportunity, if this movie is playing, take a look at it. So in short, it has a lot of themes.
Right.
Exactly what we're talking about. All the way to the end. The gender differences.
Yep.
Right. The pressures of stereotype and stereotype threat. The pressures of one who has the charge of making others comfortable. Others comfortable. So in some cases, women, they have this unwanted charge of making men feel comfortable.
Right.
Feeling comfortable with their own ego. Comfortable with their own pride. Comfortable with their own status. Comfortable with their own indiscretions. Right. And digressions.
Right.
The woman is charged to make them feel comfortable.
Right.
Then you can take a look at from a gender, from a racial or ethnic perspective. This was a movie that it wasn't a lot of people in the movie. I don't know if everyone got it. Right. I need to go see it again.
Right.
But to full transparency, I believe that the argument that my wife and I had, which wasn't major, right? The argument that we had was the themes in the movie that triggered. Right. It really did.
It's interesting, right?
Yep.
There's things operating beneath the surface.
Yep.
That get triggered.
And all the way to the end, I'm not going to give away the whole movie. There's a scene at the very end where one of the women, she was a part of this organization, this secret society, right? And my wife, who was watching it, we've been quiet the whole movie. She was like, I need to be a part of that society. And I'm like, that's interesting. Because the whole movie was about the man being a part of his secret society. Right? And when you go see it, it's not secret, but it's interesting. Eric,
that's powerful. That is powerful, man, because you're sitting back watching some privilege.
Watching privilege.
And building up all the while.
Yep.
A little bit of animosity. Right?
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. And I'm watching my privilege. Right. And I'm watching my struggle with this black man who's, going through his stuff.
Right.
And I'm like, there's a part of the movie, I'm like, brother, you got to just say something now. You can't worry about the other person being comfortable. You got to say something.
Right.
Say something.
Right.
Say something. And then he said it. And I was like, yep, that's me. Say it. In the same vein, my wife was like,
I can't believe him.
Can't believe him.
What?
And
that's what it is.
Yep.
That's the whole thing.
She's going to sacrifice everything that we've created, that we have, on his emotion to say something at the time.
Tommy, this is powerful. So here's the revelation that comes to me in this moment. God created us that way. He created us that we were only a piece of the puzzle. We were a piece. And that we literally were going to have to find the other piece to make a whole. And so that means I see some of it and she sees some of it. But it actually only works if we come together and value what you're bringing to the conversation that I cannot see at all.
Wow.
And so I wanted to ask you this. Our time is blown by. I cannot even believe it, Tommy. We're done. What does it mean to become vulnerable to people, friends, wife, children, family of origin? And how comfortable, Tommy, are we? We're going to take just one shot at this, and then we're going to have to pick back up on this. What's your thought about vulnerability? I mean, we know about, our friend who's speaking about vulnerability all the time.
Yeah. Eric, for me, vulnerability is freeing for me. I've just learned that when I am vulnerable, and that vulnerability is really inspiring curiosity. It's inspiring my pursuit of wanting to learn more about me and ours and us. That I am freed, I am confident, I'm secure. I have very little embarrassment.
I like that,
Eric. I do. Have right. So that's what it means to me.
I like that. And I'm gonna say one more thing right at the end. Again, Judy's hopefully not gonna see this part either. But what I would say is that there are different levels and there are different manifestations of vulnerability. There's one degree of vulnerability that Judy desires deeply from me. And when I go there, it helps us to get closer, and she's going to be there to wonderfully catch me. But there's another level of vulnerability that I might be playing with it sometimes. That she don't want to have no part of, like, get yourself up and get that man role that you're supposed to be getting. Don't sit here and look weak to me. Look at all these minds.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I love, man, because the world is full of victims. Man, I used to love saying, I'm ADHD. I might not remember all that. I mean, she's now ADHD. She's ADD. What? How you gonna jump in our community at this age? What? Because me and the kids been having so much fun, losing stuff everywhere. Laughing at the world, ain't got to keep up with all the details, But I tell you, man, I would say that vulnerable, we've learned that it's strength that makes you vulnerable, not weakness. It takes a strong person to become vulnerable. But I would say everything that we're taught says don't do it.
Yeah.
And so we are constantly back and forth between who should can I be vulnerable with, and then trusting that somebody be there to catch me.
Yeah.
And so when you have not seen that happen a lot, you learn I'm gonna have to depend on myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Every fall that's uncaught creates another brick of defense on that wall of defense. So when you fall and bounce and no one catches you, stand up, another, you just,
Okay, that's what we're doing.
put another brick,
Yeah. Okay.
and then another brick,
Right.
right? So now I have a wall
Right.
around me. You're not going to see that vulnerability.
And you can't go that far if you have to build huge crumb prints so when I get there that I can get myself back.
Yep.
It slows down how far you can go. And that's the challenge in a lot of relationships, is that if we aren't willing to trust somebody, then we aren't going to be able to go very far. And because it's hard for us to trust deeply. And I'm watching my wife and daughter, they love watching all these relationship shows. So now I got to watch them. And it's interesting to see the dynamics. One thing I would say that I'm seeing, the dynamic that I don't like, and it's the last one I'm going to say on this, is that young women, so if young women get a chance to watch this, do not fall victim to this new arrogance in African-American young men who know the numbers now and start acting as though they are God's gift to planet Earth. Forget them. Find you a man that's going to love you more than you love him. So you know that he's going to be doing the work that he needs to do to honor, respect you, and give you what you're looking for in a responsible man, no matter what kind of job he does. And I would say you do not have to settle. Don't allow anybody to make you believe that you have to settle. I just love that their arrogance tells on who they are, and it actually saves you the heartache of having to go 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years with somebody that doesn't have the capacity to fully love you the way you need to be loved.
Yeah, that's well said, Eric.
Well, Tommy, it has blown by again. Community, we thank you all for joining us again on a Saturday morning to talk about these diversity conversations. If there's topics that you'd like us to weigh in on, please feel free to let us know that. And we're going to try to get Penny and Judy back the next time and continue our diversity conversation. Tommy, you get the final word.
Sorry, go ahead and end it up.
All right, so that is the final word. Thank you. You can see Tommy just held on. I got the black hook and said, Tommy, I need you. You can't miss me again. He probably should have been doing it virtually from his bedside, but I'm glad to see him and glad to hear him laugh. Take care, you all. Take care of each other. Bye now.
Bye now.